in progress.
Hi folks, welcome in. As you get settled, get comfortable. We're going to get started in just a few minutes here with Tina Zarpour with Behind the Screen. Thanks, folks. Come on in. We will get started in just a moment here with Tina showing us all of the wonderful things on the San Diego History Center website, all of our wonderful resources. All right, folks, welcome in. Okay, it looks like our numbers have settled down a little bit. Welcome to this session of San Diego 101. We're going to be hearing about all of the resources on the San Diego History Center website and our collections and how you can navigate them from wherever you are. We are going to get started in just a moment here with Tina, who you can see there. But just a couple reminders, if this is your first time, welcome. If it's your second, third, fourth, or 15th, welcome back. Special shout out to our members and donors that make this possible. We're so happy that you are supportive of our wonderful programming and engaging with the variety of things that we love to bring to you. We'll be together until about 1 o'clock. Tina will be talking for about 45-50 minutes, and then we'll take as many questions as we have time for. So please do use that Q&A function if a question comes to you during the course of Tina's presentation. And if you want to say hi or share a connection, anything like that, please use the chat. Make sure to use the Q&A for your questions so they don't get lost in the chat. Without any further delay, we can hear from Tina here with her Behind the Screen Navigating SDHC's online resources.
Sam, can you do the sharing? Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really happy to be here today, and I thank you for your interest in this topic. This is the first time we're presenting on this particular topic. We get a lot of queries from the general public that kind of show us that maybe we need to do a little bit more of a tutorial on all the plethora of resources that we have on the San Diego History Center website. Just to back up a little bit and introduce myself, I'm Dr. Tina Zarpour. I'm the Vice President of Community Engagement, Education, and Collections at the History Center. I've been with the History Center just under 7 years, and it's been a wonderful learning journey. I am not an archivist by training. I have spent just about 20 years working in the museum field, and I do have an academic background. But in terms of my connection to these resources, it's really just as an avid user and engaged participant in them. So I'm happy to share some of the stuff that I've learned over the years. And also I represent the collections department, which is a wonderful team of people and professionals that past and present that have really devoted their professional life to saving these resources and making them as broadly available to the public as we can. So next screen, please. For those of you that don't know about us, we do have 2 physical sites, the San Diego History Center and Balboa Park, which we've been at since about 1981, and then our historic home at the Serra Museum in Presidio Park. In terms of our collections and archival resources, we don't have any of those at the Sarah Museum. We used to, but no longer. That is primarily an exhibit space right now, as well as a rental space. Our archives and collections are contained within our facility in Balboa Park on the lower level. Currently, since the pandemic, we are all on site. We operate. We're open, but we don't accept walk-in visitors the way that we used to. We've gone to an appointment-only system that a bit more, and it's also outlined on our website. Sam, if you could move forward. So these are the stats. If you've been with us for a while, these are kind of the same stats that we've been saying. This slide is really to show that we've got a lot of stuff. Just like many other museums, we like to collect things. I don't believe anybody's actually counted 45 million documents. Nobody's done that, sat down and done that. These are mostly estimates at the top, and then we can get a little bit more granular and count how many of those kinds of things that we have. So if you have questions as we go throughout about searching any particular area, I hope to cover as much as we can, but feel free to use the quick Q&A function to hopefully get your question brought to the surface. So next slide, please, Sam. So these are a couple of things to keep in mind about researching, and especially researching digitally. The first one is the rule of selection. So we don't have everything, right? No institution has everything. Here's a photo of a fossilized fish, and I chose a fossil because my son happens to be in love with fossils. So I spend a lot of time looking at fossil websites along with him. But it occurred to me that there is something about turning into a fossil that is the same, that has parallels with the historical record and documents. In terms, if you think about everything that's ever been created through time, and the small fraction of that stuff that has been saved, and the smaller fraction of that that's worth saving, and the smaller fraction of that stays in a museum and gets preserved in perpetuity. So we certainly don't have everything, and we can't make up for the past sins of omission. So what somebody else didn't collect 60 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, we can't necessarily make up for today. In your searches, you might not find what you're looking for, which could be a good thing and could be a bad thing, but you probably will find something else. And then, like any actively collecting museum institution, we're always seeking to address gaps in the record, past and present. So we do that within our ability and capability of the resources that we have. Okay, next slide, Sam. The second rule, the rule of imperfection. There is no perfect access. A lot of folks that maybe are not familiar with research might have an expectation that everything is digitized. There's just, with 45 million documents, there's just no way that we could or would digitize everything. So only a fraction of our tens of millions of holdings are digitized. It is one of our goals. It is an ongoing task and goal. And it is at the forefront of all of our processes that we're doing currently. But it is incredibly labor intensive and incredibly cost heavy. And those are not things that we can necessarily recoup in the short term or even the long term. And then secondly, there's no perfect organization systems. So we do the best with what we have, with how we organize it, how it was organized in the past. And that goes with physical and digital. So it might take us a while sometimes to find things. Okay, so next slide, please, Sam. Okay, so I want to start with photos. Photos are really what we're known for. We have a wonderful and awesome photo collection. And kudos to History Center over its 90 years, 92 plus years of collecting for the things that we do have, the treasures that we do have in that collection. So I wanted to demonstrate a couple of options, our two main options within the photo collection. We have a brand new system, which we're calling the Digital Collections Portal. And you can see that website under there, collections.sandiegohistory.org. This is what we call a digital asset management system. So it's more than a gallery of photos, although a gallery is how you can kind of think about it. It's a gallery plus, 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 in that it has the image that you could see. In the best of worlds, when we have everything together, we have the full slate of data around it, or the metadata. It is fully searchable, so you could type in a few words or a word and pop up everything that comes up that's related to that word. You can search on different kinds of parameters by location or by year or by topic or subject. That's true for some of the assets that are currently within the system, but not all of the assets. The other thing about this new digital collections portal is that we're constantly adding new assets and data. So it's a growing repository that's reflective of what we are currently digitizing. So for example, I had a meeting with my staff today, and in the next week, we'll be adding about 70 to 100 records of that represent our 3D object collection. So this would be some art pieces, this would be historic clothing, this would be some other objects of everyday life. So each batch that we put up there takes quite a bit of time to prepare, put the associated metadata, make sure we've got the best picture, make sure that all of the file names are correct, everything like that, and then we put it up into the system. As I just mentioned, it's more than just photos, two-dimensional photos. It includes maps, documents, objects, art, clothing, and over time that will be growing. This is a great tool for research, okay? Not only research, but you can purchase and download from this system as well. If you are using it for we also do it for licensing. So we have requests from local and national news agencies, people using them for books and for film and for all kinds of things. We had an inquiry today from the New Yorker that they're looking for a photo of Buster Keaton. Well, we have 4 assets of Buster Keaton within the system, and they can create their login on that and make their selection and pay and download the picture instantly, in essence. And then secondly, we have the photo store. So this has been our traditional e-commerce site that we've had just about probably over 10 years at this point. And you can see the address is photostore.sandiegohistory.org. This is good for ordering prints. And I would call this more of a boutique gallery experience. And it will be retired within the year. So my word of advice, if you're searching for a photo, is to check both sites, because there is quite a bit of overlap. I would say this website right here, collections.sandiegohistory.org, has more assets in it than our traditional photo store, and it will be continuing to grow. But if you can't find something here, I would also check the photo store. So let me just, I think I had it open. Okay, so this is our photo store that's been around for quite a while. If you click on gallery, it's arranged by topic roughly, but you can also search. You don't have to search within the galleries. If there's a keyword that you know, you could also try that. For example, I said Buster Keaton before. There won't be a category of Buster Keaton, but he might be under any number of categories that you can see here are the associated pictures we have. Okay, but I really wanted to demo this site, okay? Now this little search bar is very powerful. You can type in almost anything, and what it's currently searching on is the file name. So let me give you a couple of examples. So I'm going to look up phishing. Okay, so if I keep scrolling, it's going to keep adding things to that category or to that search. Now you'll see there's no information here, but what you do is you click on any one of them and it takes you into a detailed view. And in this detailed view, it has the file name. at the very minimum, and a copyright notice. Right, as we go through, as time goes on, our goal is to add additional metadata, what we call in the museum business metadata. So that's data about the resource. So that would be, that would include things like a bigger description, that might include place, that might include photographer or collection. So all of those kinds of fields. With some assets you're going to see completed, with other assets you would not. So this is the extent of the information on this that we have. If you wanted more information on this particular photo, this was when you ask a staff member and indicate this file number, object ID. Everything that we use object ID in order for us to find this asset within our back of house collection management system. So we have a different system that for photos that actually tracks the asset and everything that we know about the asset. And that's where, when we have staff that have been cataloging, that they're adding it to this back of house database. So, okay, so this is looking at the detailed view. I'm going to come back out of this. If I wanted to purchase this, I would hit this little shopping cart and it says success asset added to my cart, close that, and then close that, and then I can go to the cart. Okay, so it's asking me to log in. Now, in order to make purchases, in order to check prices, in order to download, you do need to create a login within the system. It also tracks everything. You could create carts, you could create light boxes. You can kind of leave it and then come back to it. So this is where, if I wanted to purchase it, I would select the license type. Okay, and we're not going to go through that today. But then this is where you could also see how much that asset costs for, whatever different uses that you might want to use for that. Okay, and then from here, I can still use that same search button, and I can go back out, and I'm just going to look at World War II. Okay, anybody that knows San Diego history knows that World War II was a pivotal event in our history. We have quite a bit on World War II, but you wouldn't be able to tell that by this particular search, right? So I wanted to point out one of the idiosyncrasies of it. This does not mean that these are the only photos that we have related to World War II. Okay, I'm going to click on one. When you hit that search button, it's searching for whatever data is here. So you can see that it's pulling up World War II from the file name. Okay, so as I said, as time goes on, this data will be enhanced. That's something that we're actively working on now, so that it makes your search actually more powerful. So any other photo that's within our system that we have that's related to World War II, because that description would be, that keyword would be in the description, it would pull that up. Let's see what other points. I'm going to stop sharing for a second, and Sam, if you could pull up the slides again. Okay, next slide. Okay, next slide. Okay, so some tips related to searching our digital portal. If you're researching and browsing, you don't need a login. If you would like the high-res image, if you would like to download for your use, or if you'd like to license, a login and profile is needed. The login is also used for the light boxes to see costs and make purchases. I already mentioned that part. And then this is more about finding, the importance of search terms. Generally, specific people, neighborhoods, and subjects tend to be more effective. But you never know. It's always worth a try. For example, if you could look up, I could look up Barron or Marston and pull up those images. Place names like Tijuana, Oceanside, or Lakeside as well. And then try variations of words. Try the singular versus the plural. So Sam, I'm going to go back to capture here. And actually, we're going to try Tijuana. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down so we can see that from this area, you could also add to cart or add to a light box as well. You don't have to click into the detailed view. So we have quite a few resources that are related to Tijuana. And again, that's because it's appearing here in the file name. Okay. So let's look up, what did I say? Okay, I wanted to show an example of something that's within this system that's not necessarily within the photo store. So this is a woman named Silora Barron, which she's currently showcased in our Celebrate San Diego exhibition. And I think we probably have more than 3 photos of her in total. Part of these are from our Baynard collection. These are the 3 that currently happen to be within this system right now. But if I searched Barron here, I don't come up with anything. So the difference, I would say the main difference between this photo store right here and what we're calling our digital collections portal, which is this website, collections.sandiegohistory.org, is that this one is more of a boutique experience. It's kind of more of a curated set of images that somebody put together that they thought other people would be interested in purchasing for prints. Now, if you do want to order prints, this is what you would do. You would come to this gallery, you would select an image and you would add it to your cart and select what size print that you would like. We do have galleries here in this system, and I will show you. These are just things that we kind of just playing around with. These will also be changing over time and adding to it. But the gallery are just compositions of select photos that we've put together to give people an idea of what we have. Okay, and I would encourage, I do see a question in the Q&A. Oh, somebody asked, what is a light box? A light box is just a collection of photographs that you select and that you title that you're interested in coming back to so you don't lose track of. It's kind of like a folder in your inbox. Okay, so I think I hit surfing. So these all have to do with some aspect. We'll have surfing in the title. Or surf rather, too. Okay, so I'm gonna, Sam, if you could bring up the slides again. Okay, next slide. Okay, so we're moving on from photos and going on to finding other kinds of resources within our repositories. Tips and tricks. This is my #1 tip. The search bar is your best friend. So we have, this is our main San Diego History Center website. There is a little white box and it says enhanced by Google. That little white box is extremely powerful and it will pull up all kinds of things. So let's kind of play around with that. Sam, can you go to the next slide? Okay, before we go to that, I want you to keep that in mind, that search box is very powerful. I wanted to talk about what we're heading into now are things that are on our website that are that somebody has put together and placed on our website. In other words, they're put together by the San Diego History Center, and they are put on our website and they're searchable. Many of you are familiar with our Journal of San Diego History. It's an incredible resource. It goes back to 1955. Here are some clips of some of those earliest issues that I put here. even better if they're all online, with the exception of our most recent issue. It's all free. There are currently no firewalls, and it's all full text searchable. The Journal of San Diego History is a scholarly publication. It's been written by all kinds, articles have been contributed by all kinds of people over time, scholars and interested folks and historians that have contributed and written articles on all kinds of topics that you can think of related to San Diego history. And I would say that in this case, the search bar is more your friend than the issue search. So I'm gonna take over again and kind of demonstrate what I mean by that. Okay, so if you go to our homepage and you go to the research and then you go to Journal of San Diego History, this is the main journal landing page. Okay, here are indexes. I actually would not recommend to use the indexes. I mean, I haven't found them to be useful myself. You could look at things, you could look at issues together. So we've got these beautiful covers here, and if I keep scrolling, they'll keep loading, going back in time. And you can see what issues, what articles were together, and some of the front matter and back matter and things like that, if that's of interest to you. But if you know what you're focused on, then I would use the search bar, because the search bar will bring up more things than having to kind of poke through the index or poke through those specific journals. I'm gonna look up World War II again. Okay, you see how fast that was. There's 677 results. And what it's pulling from are not only journal articles, but everything that's to do with, it could be an exhibition website. It could be a manuscript collection. So you do kind of have to wade through that. And I'll talk more about those kinds of things, especially the manuscript collections as we go through. But for instance, this is a journal article. Okay, women in wartime. And then if you're looking for something specific, then you use the Control F button to see if you're looking for a specific name or place to help you kind of go through the article as well. Okay. Let's see. Okay, if we could go back to the PowerPoint. Sam?
Sorry, it froze up. Hold on one second.
Okay, so we're going to take a deeper dive and look at other aspects of the archives. Next slide. Okay, so let's talk about the online catalog. Okay, the online catalog, there's the direct URL for it. You could type that into if you're on the computer right now, and I'm going to start sharing. If you go into research, and you can access it directly like that. Okay, this is the online catalog. So this is searching what we have in terms of, this is cross-searching the document archives, it's searching oral histories, it's searching library books, and photographs to an extent as well. And it's doing it with keywords. So what I wanted to point out before, also within this, I'm going to take a step back, is if you go to research and then special collections, and this is a highlight of our main areas of collecting, and go into document archives, where you can access the online catalog there. But I wanted to point out the archival collections. So the archival collections are what we also call the manuscript collections, and they all start with this number MS something something. Okay, if I click on any one of these, you can see we have, see, I'm scrolling to the bottom, 314 of these. What these are, these blue links, are the finding aids for that collection. So I'm not sure if everybody knows what a finding aid is. Sam, can you, I'm going to stop share here. So a finding aid is really a tool. So it's a tool that somebody has put together. Our manuscript collections are huge, and they probably take up the most of those 45 million documents that I mentioned. And they're generally papers of a business or papers of an organization or papers of a family, some kind of entity that has records. And History Center staff person at some point went through that collection and organized it for the public and created what we call a finding aid, basically a document that describes what's in there. It talks about the categories in there. It talks about the scope and content. There are associated names and other entities and headings in there in that finding aid. So the finding aid is a tool for the user. It's kind of the interaction between the archivist, the archival collection, and the user. So when we have a finding, when we don't have everything digitized, and as I said, as I mentioned, remember that we can't possibly digitize everything, the finding aid is really the next best thing. It tells you what's in something and how it's organized and which specific folder you might find that thing in. So, sorry about the bangs here. Okay, I've clicked into a finding aid. This is the Union Title Insurance and Trust Company collection. So these are the headings of everything that's in here. So there's always a summary. There's usually some notes, it should be jumping down, biographical and historical notes about the background of the collection, who collected it, who they were, things like that, the scope and content, how it's arranged, and the controlled access headings. So these are the names and places associated with that are mentioned. When you do a search within the search box, it's also looking within this as well. So that's why that search box is very powerful. Let's see, I'm going to look in the WPA collection and just see. Okay, it tells us it's inclusive of the dates 1835 to 1942. The bulk of it's from 1937 to 1942. It gives some citation information. So if you wanted to use this in a paper, this is what you would put, any of this information. The notes around it, again, how we came to have it, and then the arrangements. Some finding aids have more information than others. For example, we have the Charlotte Baker diaries. I'm going to click into that, the Charlotte Baker Diary Collection. And we have the same categories I've talked about, but in addition, we should have, this is really cool. So within the diaries, and the diaries are these little tiny, very fragile things, somebody has summarized the scope and content of each of those diaries. tell us what it's about in each of those. So to me, this is an amazing resource. Okay. I want to kind of pause here and ask if there's any questions so far.
We do have a couple of questions. We've got a question asking how, if you can explain how to access San Diego census records.
I would actually go to census.gov for that kind of information. They do go back quite a bit, maybe not to the beginning of time, but when, back to, I would imagine at least 1850, if not beyond.
And we've got another question asking, I want to buy a photo of Kearny Mesa for private non-commercial use, and the cheapest they can find is $50. Is there another way that is cheaper?
Those are our posted rates. We do offer bulk discounts for multiple images. These, I just want to remind everyone that we are a private nonprofit entity. We don't receive any local or state or national federal funding other than what we can raise. In terms, we collect regional history, but nobody is funding us because we collect regional history from a public standpoint. So this is a way, some of these fees are really a way for us to recoup those costs and to basically maintain and preserve the archive that we have. So we do give discounts for partners and partnerships that we work with and things like that. But that's generally our starting fee for non-commercial photos.
And then another question just came through. Once photostore.sandiegohistory.org is phased out, will the new site include print options?
Vicki, that is a really, really good question. And yes, that is something we're actively working on now with the development team of the vendor that we're using for our digital collections, is enabling that print capability as well within the digital collections portal.
Great. And that's all I see so far. So if any more questions occur to you, make sure you put them in that Q&A so we can see them and answer them.
Yeah. Okay. So what do you see on the screen right now?
We see your screen. We see the browser.
The browser. Okay. So I'm actually going to share the I'll take over from here for a little bit. We'll try that out. Okay. The next thing I wanted to show you is our resource guides. Now, these are a little hidden corner pockets of our website, but again, very useful and powerful as well. So these resource guides are all individual documents by topic, and they've been put together by a staff person over time on that topic. And if you click into any one of those, you will see that it will put resources that are related to things that are across the collection. So I'm going to try to attempt to navigate from here. This research bar, this research option is really where you're going to get started for most things that have to do with. Go to research services. And then you go to guides to the special collections. And then resource guides by topic. So I'm going to click on, I'm just going to click on genealogical. So it pulls up a document. It's giving you here, in this case, other entities that might be able to help with your genealogical search. Okay, this one's a little bit different than the rest. I'm going to click on housing and covenants, race restrictions. This is something we've gotten quite a bit of coverage over in the public media lately. In the last 6 to 8 months, we've had quite a few news agencies that have come to us and used our archives for this kind of purpose. But see, you can see that it's pulling together resources that are in ephemera, in maps, in the TMS collection. So these are generally unpublished papers. These are basically single scholarly manuscripts that somebody has submitted to us. We've collected the document files, oral histories, as well as journal articles that have to do with that topic. So quite a bit here, and then books. As we have the time and ability and resources, this is also another growing area. So it's worth to kind of check into this occasionally. If you know of a young person that's a student, this is a good place for them. If they're thinking of a topic to write, this is a good place to start. Okay. Okay, so these are other things that I wanted to remind everybody of that even some of our staff doesn't always know about. And that is things, again, that have been put together by former staff over time. The first is the timeline of San Diego history. This is not what it looks like. This is just a picture of another timeline we happen to have in full scale at 24 feet backlit in the gallery space right now. But the timeline of San Diego history covers prehistory to 1999. And when you use that search bar, you're probably also searching within the timeline as well. And then we have a section on biographies. So there's some select biographies online. There's maybe about 100. They're in alphabetical order. If I can click on that and go to it. Okay, are you seeing my PowerPoint or are you seeing the website?
Seeing the PowerPoint.
Okay. So this is where you're going to, okay. Biographical and subject files. So for anything that you can't find within the guides that I've just showed you or the biographical write-ups that I just showed you, we have resources available in our research archives. This would be by appointment only. So we have things called biographical files and subject files. So this is an example of some of the subject files. We do have an index that we'll post online of what subject files that we have. And then at some point in the future, we hope to have the same kind of index for the biographical files. Okay, now I want to cover newspapers. We get some questions related to how do I find something in the newspaper, or I want this article, or I'm looking for the paper. We don't let's talk about the kinds of newspapers we have and what we have access to. So for the San Diego Union Tribune, in terms of digital access, there is a service called Newsbank. The History Center pays a monthly subscription fee for staff on-site use. If you ask us to help you on something, usually this is part of our research services. We make use of this on our own, and we use it for our own research and things like that. If you want online digital access, I would say the San Diego Public Library is a better option, and you would just need a library account, library card with that. And I've made put a little thing right there next to it so you can see kind of what it looks like on their website. In terms of physical access, we do have a handful of physical copies with our focus now is really on big events. If we happen to come across a physical copy of a paper, we'll collect that. We also have microfilm, but it's, as you know, hard to deal with. And lately our machine's been a little bit unreliable on that. I would highly recommend Newsbank or the San Diego Public Library in that case. Community newspapers. Okay, we have actually a fair selection of physical copies of community newspapers through time. These would be things generally within San Diego County. To check what we have to see whether we have that run of community newspapers or we even have any of it, this is how I would do it. So I'm going to kind of demonstrate here. Okay, remember I talked about the online catalog. This is how you get to it. This is going to search oral histories, manuscript collections, our library, and also ephemera and what newspapers we have. So this is what I would do. I would put news and the word and then the community, the location. So I'm going to look up Borrego, for example. You do need the word news and you need the word and, or else it's going to come up, search is going to be too big. So it's pulling ephemera because it has the word Borrego. And if I click on that, ephemera would be things that are more like temporary. They were created as a temporary document, like a brochure, a flyer, things like that. This is why it's coming up here. But in this case, we're not looking for that. We're not interested in. But here, if you scroll down, news, Borrego, BOR, and we do have issues of the Borrego Sun from 1949 to 1995. And from 1949 to 1995, January is on microfilm, and it looks like hopefully these would be physical copies that we have of that particular newspaper. Okay, any questions on the newspapers or any of the other recent things I've shared?
We do have a few great questions that we can get to if you've got a pausing point here. We've got a question from Kyle asking, will the oral histories be part of the materials that will be digitized?
We're working through the issue of oral histories. So oral histories, do you mean, Kyle, the transcripts or the audio? We don't know. Okay, so the transcripts are currently, we do have the transcripts digitized. They are not publicly available on one of our portals. That's something we're trying to figure out how to do with the different platforms, basically the main platform that we have right now, which is that digital collections portal, and how to best work through those issues. The transcripts are more readily available than I would say the audio at any point in time. The audio is a little bit more of a challenge because of the storage issue and things like that. Some of our audio for oral histories going back in time is on older media that needs to be preserved, and that we actually look for actively when we have an opportunity for grants. We seek those and send those out for digitization. So some of those are digitized and some of those are not digitized.
Another question asking, if you hit a brick wall and you're trying to find something, is there an email address or phone number that we can call or write to? And same person, do you have lookup help? So a similar question.
The best way to access us is our collections at SanDiegoHistoryCenter.org.
And I will share that in the chat at the end as well with some other
the quickest answer. Phone calls are really hard for us because we're often not at our desk and it might not reach the right person. There's actually 6 people looking at that collections at SanDiegoHistory.org email address, and we talk about what we've received on a weekly basis. So we keep pretty good tabs on that. Our general thing is we try, if it takes us longer than 15 minutes, then that kind of turns into a research query, which we would recommend a visit to the History Center or a remote research request. So we try to do our best within that kind of 15-minute time slot.
We've got another question. Do you have to be a member to research in the archives?
You don't have to be a member to research in the archives. Members do get discounts to research in the archives. Periodically, every 3 months, we do offer a community research access day for members and non-members. They've been on Saturdays. We've offered them, as I said, every 3 months. We had one scheduled for January 22nd, but because of the situation with Omicron, we've rescheduled that one, or we will be rescheduling it once the situation settles down. And that is, we provide the link on our research services page to sign up. And then there's morning slots and afternoon slots, usually 9 to 12 and 1 to 4 to do something. That's for on-site research. Otherwise, we offer basically a concierge service for one-on-one research appointments on site. So you getting a dedicated staff person, you're coming in with your query, you've submitted your query to us, we've pulled resources ahead of time. If those don't work out, we're kind of just on hand to help you with your research for those kinds of appointments. I do have a couple more things to show as examples, but that people have submitted. So let me just, let's go through some of those really quickly, and then we can get back to more questions. Okay, everybody's seeing my PowerPoint, correct? Okay, these are some examples, some resources for things outside of the History Center. The Online Archive of California searches various repositories throughout California. Digital Archive, City of San Diego. I just started poking around on that, but I know, for example, they have directories, business and name directories through time, digitized, which is pretty useful. We have those as well, but for digital access, that's great. And then other local history organizations and museums in San Diego County, a lot. San Diego loves its history, so we have lots of different organizations to support in that respect. These are my top 4 tips. Search bar, okay, we've talked about that a lot. Collections.sandiegohistory.org. The online catalog, sandiegohistory.pastperfectonline.org, and then the additional resources under research services. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of fishing for some of the folks that submitted questions ahead of time, and these are you can kind of treat them as hypotheticals. Question number 1, somebody emailed about materials related to Mayor Tebbets, and they're looking for a detailed diary. Well, in that case, you could do the biography search. We do happen to have information about Mayor Tebbets. You could get to that biography search through the search bar if you just look up Tebbets. Those would be things that you could do remotely. And then if you wanted to know any more about Mayor Tebbets, it would also pull up his, if you looked at Past Perfect online, basically the online catalog, and looked up his name, it would show that we do have a file on him, and that would require a physical visit to take a look at what's in that file. Okay, question number 2, somebody emailed about being kind of roaming around NAS Miramar in the late 1960s and coming upon a field of objects. And the main question is, wonder who owned this land before the military. So, okay, so my color coding is green is things you could do online, brown, red is things you have to do physically. You just type in Miramar in the search bar and see what comes up. One of the things that comes up is a book that we have in the library called Miramar Before the Plains. That might lead you to who owned the land. There's also a timeline entry, and in that timeline entry, because this is all through the search bar, we learned that Miramar was called Camp Kearney, or with Camp Kearney starting in 1917 before it became Miramar. In which case, that would be a physical search to look at the subject files related to Camp Kearney, as well as you could browse the book on site called Miramar Before the Plains. Okay, this was a very interesting question coming from a PhD student about what do we have on Imperial Valley? Well, Imperial Valley is a great place name to look up. So you could look up Imperial Valley in the digital collections, or more specific place names within Imperial Valley. You could try the online catalog with Imperial Valley. I did that. There was about 49 results. Without knowing more about what you're interested in, you would need to kind of explore each entry, but you can kind of decipher the entries. Things that are call numbers are books, the things that kind of look like a Dewey Decimal number of some kind are books. Things that say OH are oral histories. What that will pull is the record for that oral history, and it will have an index of all the topics covered in the oral history, as well as the details about that person that provided it. EPH equals ephemera, and MS equals manuscript. Okay, this was a question about Decennial Maps and some family history and genealogy. You can look up Decennial in the online catalog. There'll be some things that come up, but it's actually better to have a specific place name. So those are, again, finding that right search term. You look up on the online catalog, for example, Rancho de la Nación, that will bring up records of the maps that we have related to that. If you would like to have a digital copy of that, yes, you'll need to print a place a digitization order and we can, in a print order, and we can provide that. And then the second question about ships, I don't know a lot about ships, but you know, hone in on the more specific search terms. Is it a name of the ship, what the home ports are? You could also check with other organizations that focus more on that. Okay, I think we like to wrap it up here and actually go back to any more specific questions from the audience that's here right now.
We do have a couple. We've got a question about, is there a specific spot where you can just enter the person's name and find everything you have on them? And I know you kind of talked about it in different ways, but.
Well, I would start with the search bar is a good place to just to see if you're even in the vicinity. But out of, you know, the beyond the search bar, then it's the Past Perfect online catalog, which I provided the links for. So those are the two places I would check.
Great. And there is a question on microfilm. So someone wants to know if they could submit via their university library an interlibrary loan for microfilm if we're part of that.
No, we're not part of the interlibrary loan system.
And do the San Diego marriage records, 1872 to 1959, available online or at the archives?
Those are not available online. We do have the public records. In Past Perfect online, public records are PR, so you could look up PRN something. I'm not familiar with the marriage records. I know we have people that come and look at them. I just happen to not know that much about them. But those would be a physical access thing.
Great. And do you accept donations of interest?
Donations of objects and artifacts or documents and things like that?
That's my guess about the question.
That's a good question. If you go to, again, SanDiegoHistory.org research, we have a donate an artifact form. So that's the starting point. That's what we ask everybody that's considering, would like to see if we would take a donation of something. That would be the place to start, because that collates all the information that we need to figure if it's something that we can take on that fits our mission. And we talk about it internally as a group.
Great. And lastly, are you able to go back to the photos and show how to get through the two different parts of the search?
Different parts of the search.
So I think they're talking about the collections access versus Past Perfect.
Okay. Okay, so research, if you go to special collections, and actually, this is what I do. This is how I get to photo that. The main photos that I would use is collections.sandiegohistory.org. How I get there, let me close this window. I get there by historic photos. So you can see the left bar is prints and products. So that takes you to our older gallery. And then this right bar takes you right back to where I was just at, collections.sandiegohistory.org. I hope that answers your question on that.
All right. And
now I will say, sorry, two big collections that we have, our community sourced photo collections that we have, which are the Baynard collection and the Davis collection, which incorporates a lot of Indigenous history, local history in San Diego, are available in a little bit different format than everything else that I've talked about. So.
Great. We have reached the end of our questions so far. So I'm going to drop in those links that I mentioned and those email addresses so you can access the different parts that Tina mentioned, all the different people and pieces of the website for your use. So let me drop those in there. We've got our donate link there. our link to our events where you can find how to register for stuff like this, our collections and research, that main page that Tina was showing that can get you to a lot of different places, donate an artifact, and then some email addresses. So if you want to know about education and programs or volunteering or reach the collections department, you can use those there. We are at time, so if you do have additional questions, please do email us. You can use those emails I dropped in there, or you can email me or Tina directly. We are happy to point you in the right direction or answer your question for you. We are going to be back next month for our next San Diego 101. So we hope that you'll join us. I'm going to drop the link to register for that. We're going to be hearing from Shelby Gordon, our marketing manager at San Diego History Center, and she will be sharing gems from the archives reflecting the rich history of Black San Diego. So I hope we will see you there. And that link to register is in the chat as well. And you'll see it on our events page, just like everything else too. And then, we have a suggestion for the person who asked about ships in the 1830s, question mark. They stumbled upon ship logs at the Riverside NARA location about 3 years ago, FYI. So National Archives Riverside apparently has got some ship logs, so that might be a lead for you. All right. So thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you next time. If you've got any questions, please let us know. Please do use those links, and we'll see you again. We will have this on YouTube. Yep, absolutely. Let me actually drop the YouTube link as well so that everybody can get to it really easily. And it is there. So you can access our past sessions, and you can access this one in a couple of days. And anything else that comes to you, please do let us know. And we are so glad for your support. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, everyone.